there guys, this is Obsidian Chill, going to the video for today. This is a continuation of my test server videos, a part of episode 42, Legion of Doom. I will say that there is no release date set yet. I know I get a lot of questions each video for that. So the release date's TBD. This is also the 4-player alert, the one who waits. This is also the regular version. I will be bringing the elite version out probably this weekend. They said they were going to be doing some adjustments to it, so I wanted to hold off on that until it got more polished in terms of how it was actually going to be released, because I don't want to show you something broken and everyone freaks out saying it's all overtuned. So hopefully they do that. I mean, if not, I'll do the video regardless, because I'm not going to wait. But so I thought I would show the regular first, because the regular is pretty much set in stone what it's going to be. So the couple things you'll notice here. If your memory is really sharp, you'll notice that this is going to pretty much follow the same layout as the League Hall Malfunction Duo, which basically just you run to the back of the League Hall, then run to the middle, then from the middle go to the War Room, and then it ends. So it follows the same format as that, and what that also means is that we're in our League Halls. So on test server, you don't see anything here. This is end up being my League Hall. You'll see in the War Room I decorated a bit, but I mean I'm not going to decorate anything else on test server, so that's why it seems all bare. So on live server, you would see exactly what's in your League Hall here, without fail. So I mean that's kind of nice because it brings us back to our League Halls again. It's certainly nice for pugs because I get to experience different League Halls. At least for me, I like to see different League Halls, see how people decorated and such. So I mean, if you're running with your League all the time, then yeah, it might get a little bit tedious because you're going to be seeing the same things over time. But it's going to be nice for pugs at least to see different League Halls. So in terms of the raid, not the raid, but the alert itself, in terms of group makeup, in regular, you can certainly run 3 DPS and 1 healer. There's no problem doing that. I'm running a tank because I find it personally a little bit faster in the hallways because there's a lot of ads spread out, so I can gather them up all at once and just make it a little bit faster. Also, in terms of the boss fights, second boss kind of needs a tank, make it a little bit easier unless you had a really good heal, because there's a little bit more effects going on. But first and last boss, you don't need a tank for. So once again, for the storyline, I did have a couple individuals post my previous duo video, kind of where I can find out more about the storyline for this, because I don't know who Murder Machine is, and you're going to see when Murder Machine spawns a bunch of tentacles. I'm not sure if Murder Machine has a bunch of tentacles in the comics. You'll see this first boss fight's not really a boss fight. We're just kind of fighting NPCs and then eventually getting gear. So the second boss fight and third boss fights are a little bit more interesting. What you'll see here is these portals that spawn. I don't believe I'd knock into them at the first round. I tried to just to show you what it looks like, but then it disappears. So I think the second time around I actually do that. But other than that, I mean, we're just fighting like the wing armors. It's just Batman related ads. So there's nothing really in this fight you have to watch out for. But here, if you get looped, so basically now you can see what happens. The looping is actually pretty fast, and you also take a damage over time, which you weren't seeing because I had the shield up, but that's what I have to watch for that. So the main part about this boss fight is that you have to make sure, it could be an issue in pugs more so, but you have to make sure the DPS kind of don't get tunnel vision. This was, I mean, by like those tentacles of a Murder Machine. So I mean, I guess that's how he defends himself. I don't know. Once again, you guys can tell me in the comment section. But what I was referring to is like DPS tunnel vision, is that there's a lot of cogs you have to turn. So basically it says like disable Murder Machine's tentacles. So if you disable them but don't turn the cog, it's just going to regenerate. So then basically it just adds needs time to the alert. And also the same thing on the sides. You see these blue beams targeting me. Those are turrets. Once again, if you're tanking, don't worry about it. It's not going to do enough damage to kill you. But if you're in a group without a tank, then it might get a little bit annoying for damage. You might want to kill them. So the other thing as well is this, technically a DPS check, is that if you don't destroy the terminals, or sorry, not the terminals, the tentacles before the middle timer on the center pillar column runs out, then they're going to regenerate. So it's kind of like you have to make sure you have some AoE damage, or either single target them all down and then make sure you turn the cogs, or it's just going to keep regenerating. And then basically these like portals are basically just to kind of slow you down and annoy you. But if you kind of jump and roll out, that's what you got to do. But that's all it is. And then basically we have a virus up low, the pillar is instantly destroyed, and that's first boss. So I would hope by something called Murder Machine he's a little bit more difficult, but that's not the case here. And the same thing. And then we're just running back to the middle, then basically running to the War Room, So once again, just I find it a little bit easier with a tank, because without a tank, these are far enough spread out that like you're gonna have to basically just defeat little groups of 3 all at the same time. Because if you're a DPS and run all the way through, you're probably gonna die. A healer could probably do it, like just run to the end of the hallway and then run back, and then have all the groups have the odds follow them. So I mean that's a possibility as well. But for the first boss fight, I mean you saw there, you didn't need a tank at all. And then for the hallway ads, you're just gathering, and that's it. But I mean, at the same time, considering that none of us are geared, like 344, 346 is basically below what the previous DLC gear was at, and there's still, you can tell by the time, it took 15 minutes. So when you're fully geared, running 3 DPS is probably going to be like an 8 to 10 minute alert anyway. So if you choose to run a tank and then have 2 DPS, then you're really not, you're costing yourself maybe like 2 minutes. So I'll be quiet for the cutscene here.
Perpetua's looking to replace Lexi, and I see some trophies that just might impress her.
You think to cage me?
Shut it, imp! And Murder Machine. Some privacy.
So the one thing you'll first notice is that there's a lot of clipping with the base items. So the League Hall, especially if you have some of those large base items, you're going to be clipping a lot of that cutscene. You could even be blocking Batman and Laughs in terms of where they're standing, but you could saw like the 6-dimensional guy was kind of blocked, the Murder Machine was kind of blocked inside the base item. So not sure entirely how I feel about that, but I mean there's nothing they can do. I mean because it's all these free-form base items, so you can place them wherever you want. So in this boss fight, it's kind of handy with the tank unless you have a really good healer, because there's a lot of effects going on in terms of damage. So basically you see these toxic gas pools, they're going to be putting damage over time on you. Batman Who Laughs is a little bit counter heavy in terms of his damage. He can also stun you. We've got this red warning you saw there, preparing a compound, where basically it just kind of basically is a knockback damage. Now I should have had Shadow Restraints on for this. I didn't need Resonating Gale. There's some ads that spawn, but you don't need like crowd control for that. So ideally, if you were tanking, you should have an immunity for that, just to kind of save the pushback on that compound attack. I mean, it's not like detrimental at all to the group, but it's just something you should be doing as a tank. The other 2 things will come out, you'll see them periodically spawn as Drowned and Merciless. So basically Batman Who Laughs just kind of summoning his allies, along with like the Dark Robins. So when Drowned spawns, you can see her in the back there. So she just drops that kind of orbital attack that she does, and then just takes damage. And then when Merciless spawns, same thing. Merciless will spawn and do his sword slam. So it's this, you can't attack them or kill them in regular. Or event, I should say. So it's nothing you have to worry about there. It's just that you just have to like dodge the mechanics. So obviously don't sit in the orbital, or don't sit in front of Merciless doing a shield slam. Batman and Laughs got this chain attack where you have to break out from. Basically just sit there and just hit your buttons like normal. Just like, you know, Wonder Woman's lasso. And other than that, it's kind of rinse and repeat. So it's a little bit damage heavy. So in terms of, if you didn't have a tank and you have Batman that lasts the entire time and Drowned and Merciless on you, it can be a little bit overwhelming for the healer. Should be fine for like a nature one, because there's not really any burst damage. It's all just like damage over time. Oh, I should mention, actually this is a good time to talk about the Batman and Laughs ally while we've got time. So I know a lot of people are asking like the passives and stuff for Batman and Laughs. I want to see the ally. I know the passives right now, there's a few things that are broken in terms of his damage, in terms of like how the attacks are working, how they're scaling. Some are working actually backwards. So I'm trying to hold off on it, because I'm hoping they're going to do an update for the weekend. If they don't, then I'm going to bring it to you anyway and just deal with it. But I'm really hoping that they make some sort of an adjustment for the weekend. I know they may not have worked at all on Thanksgiving in the States, because that was a holiday. So either they worked on Thanksgiving because it was a holiday and they wanted to get stuff done, or they didn't work because it was a holiday. So that it may not bode well for the weekend in terms of updates. But I was kind of holding off on that. But I definitely will bring you full in-depth for the ally. And then before this DLC hits on live server, I'll redo all my allies, because I know I was a little bit light on the Nubia testing as well. So then I'll do my whole ally guide in depth again for that. So that'll be certainly something to stay tuned to.
Murder Machine, time for my pickup. Perpetua will want to know all about their little plans and appreciate how much I've just delayed them. Imps really hate being caged, don't you know?
We need to hurry. Can you still open the way?
You try to pull a trick on me, I shall pull a trick on you.
Okay, so now we fight the 6-dimensional leprechaun from all the seasonals. So you guys always, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name, so I'm not trying to butcher that pronunciation. But I mean, you guys all know who he is. And this is actually something a little bit neat here, so I'll be quiet for this so you can kind of see.
So much more fun than the 5th dimension.
And look at us, we're playing a game of Simon Says. So that's essentially what the first phase of this fight is going to be. We have Simon Says and have to pick those abilities and then basically just summon some ads we have to kill. So the premise is that he's going to say what he wants us to do. So you can see above his head there's a dance icon. Then we'll get 4 new abilities on our power tray and we have to hit dance. So if we don't hit dance, we're going to take damage and just explode when we fail basically and take 3/4 of our health. So that's what happens if we fail. And then if you pass, you take no damage like it did the first time. So you just have to see if he's going to say beg. We see the icon of what beg looks like. We're going to see beg corresponds to 3. We're going to hit 3. And no damage. And that's all it is. It's kind of rinse and repeat. So it's going to be one of those things where it's really fun for like the first couple weeks. And after that, it's going to be like pretty tedious. Because there's nothing, you can't skip it any faster. It's just have you wait for all the phases to play out. So this is the second game. This one's going to be really hard for pugs. Because what happens is you smash the dice. You saw 2 numbers randomly generated above our head. So 1 and 2. And it's going to say add the dice for disabling the turrets. Which is basically these like crystal turrets. So they're eventually going to summon a cog. And you have to turn the cog. But you can only disable 3 of them or we fail. So as you saw there, we failed and took a pretty much near one shot. Everyone was down to like 15% health. So if you fail, which means you're destroying more. So that means a person in the group destroyed turrets outside of those 3, which you're not allowed to do. So this is something that is just, it's going to be, I mean, technically you could just ignore the mechanic and just heal it. But at the same time, if you want to do it properly, and I'm sure that, I haven't checked, but I'm sure there's a feat involved with not failing. It's the same time I smashed a 1, he had a 4, so now we have 5. So it's going to tell us we can only disable 5, and disabling means turning the cog. So it's one of those things where it's like either the 2 players that get the numbers have to just do it, and then tell the other group just to kind of like just don't touch anything, just stand, like put your controller down or your keyboard, not touch anything, or we have the group has to coordinate. It's the same thing. You get punished and fail. So in Elite, I'm imagining it's very less forgiving. I haven't done this boss in Elite because the second boss is a little bit overtuned, which is why I was waiting to see if they're gonna update it at all. But I would imagine that'd be very unforgiving in Elite. In terms of if you fail once, you're just dead and have to wipe. So that's the thing too. Like, if you're in Elite and like one of these persons screw up the mechanics, even the dancing game, because I'm sure that's gonna be a one-shot in Elite. If you screw that up, I mean, then you just have to wipe and come back. So that's going to get the tedious part, because then you're failing a game of Simon Says or the dice game, and then wipe, have to restart over again. So in this part, all you're doing is smashing presents. It's similar to that, like the beginning of that, like Harley. I think the Waymanor duo with Harley, as you're just smashing presents, and then some of the allies come out. The number of hits it takes to break the presents will differ in Elite, normal, and Event, normal, and Reg. What? Not reg and normal. Event, normal, and Elite will differ. So that's going to be handy to be like Brawl Prec or like Rifle or something like that, just to get the multi-hits. But other than that, the bouncy balls will also spawn, knock you back, deal some damage. I believe one of the augments actually is a level for not getting knocked back by them. So you're basically just immune to the knockback. Other than that, there's not really just touching on augments, there's really not too many augments that are in terms of like OP. They're slightly changing it now where you don't get the extra mark. You still get the extra gear, but what's happening now is that you get an extra chance at the OP catalyst. So that's actually going to be quite handy, because I'll cover it and show you what it means, but it's going to be quite handy in terms of like making money down the road. It's just that now you'll be able to use your augments, level them up, and then get some extra catalysts to sell in the broker. So that's the alert.
There's fair.
And then basically storyline, it ties into us because we ask him to open up the 6th dimension, and the 6th Superman comes out. So and then basically it ties into what I did with the raid. So I'm kind of going in backwards and being like raid duo and alert. But thank you guys for always watching, and stay tuned for the weekend where I finish up the videos. Take care, guys. Thank you.